and Representative Melerine. House Bill 49. Mr. Gonzalez, if you'd read the instrument into the record.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Members, this is House Bill 49 by Representative Melerine, which provides relative to the confidentiality of records from certain hearings of the Board of Pardons and Committee on Parole.
Representative Melerine on your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, Mr. Gonzalez hit the nail on the head. The short version of this is that what we're trying to do is protect victims of crimes, especially in situations where their identities have been sealed and through miscommunication or through a loophole in the law, their identities through the parole hearing or pardon hearings are then the victims themselves, or their identities are now released to the public, and there's a lot of unintended consequences and pain that can be caused by that. It would be called the Maggie Grace Act if it does pass. Fortunately, Maggie Grace is here, the person that asked, brought it to my attention. We do have some amendments that I think it would be better to take those amendments at that time before I turn it over to Ms. Maggie Grace.
Absolutely. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Members, this is Amendment Set 607, and here's what they do. Amendments 1 through 4, 7, 9, 11, 13, 23, 33, and 34, 36, 38, 39, that's all technical. Amendments 5 and 32, they're just clarifying that it's unlawful to disseminate testimony that's presented by a victim or spouse or next of kin of a deceased victim during the executive session of the Board of Pardons and Committee on Parole, rather than testimony that's presented by a victim who is either a minor or a victim of a sex offense. Amendment 6 and 12, they're just deleting proposed law definitions for live stream and documented hearing. Amendment 8 makes a terminology change. Amendment 10, that's inserting present law provisions relative to pardon and parole, and amends these provisions to clarify that the victim or spouse or next of kin of a deceased victim shall be allowed to present testimony in executive session at that victim's request. And also, as a caveat, on page 2 of this amendment set, lines 9 and 10, the present law or that is being struck, that is being reinserted into the law. So just to make that note to the committee that we are reinserting present law in those provisions. And back to amendments 14 and 15 clarify that this testimony that is provided by victims before the board or committee, it is not subject to a public records law. Again, that's just clarifying all victims rather than certain victims of sex offenses or minors. Amendments 16, 17, 20 through 21, 24, and 31, that's just clarifying that the 19th Judicial District is the proper court to go through for the disclosure proceedings, and they're the court who can order disclosure. Amendments 18, 19, 22, 25 through 30, 35, that's just changing the word documented hearing to testimony within proposed law. And again, this is testimony that is presented in executive session before the board or committee. And then the final amendment goes into the open meetings law. Those exceptions where executive session can be held, and it says that the Board of Pardons and Committee on Parole may enter executive session to take testimony from a victim or spouse or next of kin of a deceased victim during any portion of their meeting or hearing, and that's what this amendment set is doing.
Representative Melerine, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I want to just comment.
Amendment?
I know this
Sure.
is a large amendment set, and I just kind of want to explain that to everybody on the committee.
But it was published ahead of time and consistent with our rules, just to be clear.
It was published, and also to let everybody know that the reason for this is I worked in connection, and Chairwoman did as well, and staff, in connection with the Board of Pardons to make sure that we were in a position where it was going to have the intent of protecting the identities of the victims, but also at the same time not have the unintended consequence of a loophole allowing a streaming or something like that to be done, so that way we didn't end up right back here. So I do apologize for it being such a lengthy set of amendments, but I want to thank Mr. Gonzalez. He's been amazing on this. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Representative Melerine, and thank you for bringing the problem to our attention, one that I had not realized was going on, and a loophole that I am very anxious, along with you, to correct. And Maggie Grace, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, members of the Administration of Criminal Justice Committee. My name is Maggie Grace, and I have come before you today not just as a survivor, but to be a voice for those who have been silenced by trauma and violation, and whose identities may have been exposed or will be exposed to the public by the Louisiana Board of Pardons and Committee on Parole. I am here to advocate for Louisiana House Bill number 49, the Maggie Grace Act. This seeks to protect the confidentiality of victims' records in parole hearings, especially those involving minors and victims of sex offenses. In 2020, I was asked to speak at a hearing related to,
You're doing fine.
the parole of the man who sexually assaulted me as a child. I was encouraged by the victim advocates to, in person over Zoom, represent myself in detail to explain what happened to help ensure he remained in prison. I was assured numerous times by parole boards and officials that this hearing would be kept confidential, that my words and image would be protected, and that only those present would have access to the recording. The trust I placed in the state of Louisiana was shattered when the parole board released the video of my testimony without my knowledge or consent. And it was not just my testimony, it was the whole hearing. So my testimony, my parents' testimony, and some victim advocate letters that were read. Then a YouTuber somehow obtained the video of the parole hearing and posted it online for entertainment purposes. This YouTuber is now monetizing off of my trauma. He is making profits off of this. My deepest, most painful experiences, my childhood sexual assault, the pain I've endured, my journey towards healing are now online and exposed for the world to forever scrutinize and exploit. This is not just a breach of privacy, it is a violation without my consent. My full legal maiden name is attached to the video, as well as the perpetrator's full name, making it easily searchable and traceable to me. Friends, coworkers, and even potential employers can now access details of my most painful moments. And I want to clarify that this is not just my trauma, it's my family's trauma that has been laid bare for the world to see. I urge you to consider the implications of such violations. Victims of sexual assault are already so hesitant to come forward for many reasons. We need to ensure that the privacy and confidentiality are upheld so that other victims do not have to endure what I have faced and what I'm sure countless other victims are facing and may not be aware of. It affects not just the victims, but their families, communities, and their trust in our justice system. This violation of my privacy as a survivor of sexual assault has been traumatizing for me and my loved ones, and I ask you to take action.
Thank you so much for your bravery and being here today. And thank you for calling it to our attention. We can't fix it for you, but we can fix it going forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Representative Horton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you so much for being here today. I absolutely adore your mother, and I know that you're a very strong person. Not only were you victimized as a child, but you're victimized over and over and over again, and it's heartbreaking. You're everybody's daughter, and feeling your pain it goes to our core. And thank you for taking what someone wanted to destroy you with and use it for God's glory by stopping the process, or stopping them from able to do this. And we commend you so much. Thank you, Representative Melerine, for bringing it. And at the appropriate time, I'd like to move favorably and as amended with the co-author sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Horton. And on that amendment, we actually didn't adopt the amendment yet. So members, I would move that we adopt the amendments. Do we have any objections? Seeing no objections, let the amendment be adopted. We have green cards in support from Christine Russell, District Attorney, 17th JDC. Claire Howington, 16th JDC District Attorney's Office. Zach Daniels, Executive Director of Louisiana District Attorney's Office. And Billy Joe Harrington, District Attorney, 10th JDC. All present in support but not wishing to speak. And we have a white card present and will provide information if requested from Francis Abbott, the Executive Director of the Board of Pardons and Paroles. I see no further cards. Representative Melerine, you want to close on your bill?
I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Members, we have a motion by Representative Horton to report the instrument as amended. Do we have any objections?
Oh, hold on one second.
Sure.
I think, I don't know if y'all received it.
She did submit.
Maggie Grace's mom, if it's okay, her
Absolutely.
mom would like to say.
If we could have a green card, I did
We'll-
not see.
We'll get it filled out.
Sure.
Madam Chair.
Come on, Mom.
Thank you so much. I'm very sorry about that. I turned one in when we
It's
first.
probably misfiled, so that's not your fault. We have a bunch of bills today, so we'll check for it.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak on the bill, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Grace Ann Blake. I am the mother of Maggie Grace. This all started 22 years ago in a sad and complex case that involved many children besides the 4 that a man named Jonathan Dagenhart was prosecuted for harming. There were approximately 19 children known at the time of his arrest. My family is currently living a nightmare that caused so much concerns from the previous parents of the 15 other children who were sexually assaulted by my daughter's offender, Mr. Dagenhart. Some of the parents were afraid that if they came forward to testify, that their privacy would be violated, that the children's identity would be made known, and the horrors they endured would be revealed. They chose to stay silent for so long ago. And it was a very frustrating moment for us as a family, but now I sit before you understanding. I share this with you because we must understand that this is the number one reason victims of sexual assault and violent crimes do not come forward, and why most do not want to speak at parole hearings as well. Nearly 2 decades ago, we and the families willing to go forward were promised that this case would be sealed and that our children's identities would never be released or revealed to the public. Fast forward to today. We are sitting before you because I received a call from a family member many months ago questioning me why our testimony at the parole hearing was on YouTube and that it had gone viral. The call literally paralyzed me. I was stunned, shocked, and sickened. Still, 7 months later, I am so traumatized that I almost can't think clearly. The concern that I have for my daughter's mental health and well-being, knowing this would tear her apart, is truly indescribable. You see, we agreed to doing the parole hearing via Zoom due to new COVID restrictions, with understanding that only those involved with the actual case and the parole board members would view the recording. I asked and was clarified that we were definitely in support of the board seeing our faces while hearing the impact of what my daughter's offender did. That does give power back to victims. However, we were definitely not agreeing to anyone else to have access to see and hear the horrific actions of abuse and hear how this destroyed our family. These moments and feelings are so very private for far many two reasons to list. A few concerns that I would like to point out. Number one, a stranger is profiting on the hurt, anguish, physical, mental pain that we have suffered, now causing pain that is nearly impossible to describe. The amount of grief felt of worry knowing that the exposure to my daughter's most intimate and traumatic trauma has almost crippled me. Number two, these videos streaming allow others to re-victimize and horrifically, potentially the offender when released to then re-offend the victims through reliving their terrible actions. Thank you so much, and I am in support of the bill, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Blake, for testifying. And it turns out I did have your card. We don't have a card for Maggie Grace, and I just assumed I thought she was Maggie Grace for that card. So if we can just get a green card for Maggie. And again, we have a motion to report with amendments by Representative Horton. Do we have any objections? Hearing none, let the instrument be reported with amendments. And thank y'all so much for being here.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all so much.